What's that? Could it be a package for me? Oh, it is a package. It's a big package. Thanks. We'll put that down. Let's see what's in the box. Ooh. Oh, what could it be? What could it be? What could it be? It almost, it almost feels like it would weigh about, I don't know, 11 pounds. What could I have in the box that could weigh 11 pounds? Well, let's see, shall we? Okay. Okay, so I cut the tape, open up, and remove this. We'll get rid of that stuff. And what could it be? 11 pounds. Oh, it's a big one. And we'll move this box out of the way. And there we go. There he is. It's the Transformers Titans Return Titan Class Trypticon. About time that we finally started to get a little bit of love for Decepticon bases, and we're going to look at everything to do with this guy in the latest GotBot True review. Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot as always. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor. Have a look on the channel at Universal Collision and anything else that catches your interest. And of course, check me out everywhere, and I'm going to cover everything to do with this guy. The modes, what we get fresh out of box here, and I'm going to touch on things like the fixes that some people have had to do if I encounter them. But for now, let's back this up a bit. For now, let's just get the guy out of the box. We're not even going to look at the box right now. Let's just see what he looks like fresh out of it. And you get a little taste of what's on the box now, but we're going to look at the box closer at another juncture. So putting this down. And this guy is very heavy. I said 11 pounds. That's what the package was listed at, 11 pounds, and fresh out of box. Boom. This is what we get. Trypticon, of course, over here. His two legs right here. I do not know yet if I'm going to have any of the issues that many have complained about with him. We shall see. But here's what I do know. I do know that he comes with, I'll get this out now since we're at it here. I do know that he comes with a rather large set of instructions, pretty huge actually, and I'll do this now, his ever popular, if it will focus, ever popular collector card. Beautiful artwork of Trypticon right there, and on the back you can see that really everything except intelligence has the guy up to infinity, 20s. He's going to be dangerous. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind about that. But he also comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, 17, 18, 19, 105, 106, about 160 stickers? What? Okay, so I'm going to go away. I'm going to get the stickers on him. I'm going to see about putting some of those pieces together, and we're going to come back and address everything to do with this guy. Okay, so I'm back like I promised I would be, and I've finally got all of the foil stickers applied. There is a lot. I believe I've heard a lot of numbers thrown around. I believe there was 158. The kind of common thinking is 156, but I believe there's 158. I already went through the card. The instructions I touched on about how big they are, and they do cover everything. I mean, here's the instructions for all modes. On the flip side, you have for Necro and Full Tilt and all of the stickers. A couple of things to note there, that they show him combined with Sky Shadow and Overlord, and that form apparently when he's in city mode with them attached, or I guess you could use 6-shot, or I guess you could use Soundwave, is known as Nemesis Command. I think that's kind of cool that they sort of bring in the idea of the Nemesis. I like that, and I would guess, though it's just called Spaceship mode, I would guess that the ship is supposed to technically be the Nemesis. Let's take a second, talk about the box. Beautiful, gorgeous artwork on the front. You have Sky Shadow way up here. You have 6-shot way over there, and of course Trypticon, and there's a couple of cannons firing, like right there for example, at Trypticon. Not that it's having much of an effect. The only thing that really strikes me as funny is that we have green here on his neck piece, and his arms seem to be completely purple. I'm kind of glad that we actually got the paint layout that we got on the figure itself instead of what we have in the artwork, because as glorious as it is, it's a little less accurate. On the front, of course, we're showing all 3 modes here. On the side over here, it's the same thing. On the far side over here, we just have a Decepticon logo. There is a write-up there that basically just talks about how Trypticon can control, can end the universe, and how he's towering. He's a towering Decepticon and built for conquest in the spaceship mode. He can go between planets, city mode to establish strongholds. He consumes other bots, devouring refined energon cubes. Necro hungers for something far more sinister because he can harvest the sparks of other bots. Now that is really cool. Scary, but cool. Whenever these Decepticons travel, they bring doom and ultimate destruction, so no big shock there. The bottom of the box is nothing. The top of the box, right here, has Necro, who becomes the head for Full Tilt. And that becomes the head of Trypticon, and it shows his spaceship mode and his city mode. Then we come to the back, where we don't have a bio. Here's what we have on the back. We have Trypticon. Of course, you can take off his chest, and that's Full Tilt, who can transform. The head comes off, and that's Necro. We can see that it goes down to the city mode, and for some reason we're shown broadside and hot rod there, but hey, whatever. We're also shown connected to him Sky Shadow, which is something I definitely plan to do, because before this is all said and done, I really want to not only do some comparisons but show an ultimate Autobot base as it currently stands compared to my ultimate Decepticon base as it currently stands. And that's really about it. Of course, Necro can work with any of the Titan Masters, and that's shown over on the far side of the box. So that's it for the box. We're going to move on. We're going to start small and work our way up to big, and finally to the biggest. And now we start off with Necro, the Titan Master. Now, for those who would say, I don't know who Necro is, okay, here's the long and the short of it. There was a comics-only character, Wipeout, who was one of the minion servants of Trypticon, and he was a sycophant, and gave so many compliments to Trypticon that he even drove Trypticon nuts. Well, I guess they must have lost the rights to the name Wipeout, I suppose. Originally he was based on Tailgate's toy model, but Necro is supposed to be the embodiment of Wipeout. Now, that being said, you know, he's a Titan Master. He's like all the Titan Masters. He has a purple body, black head, no real paint apps. It looks fine. Ball joint on the head, or sorry, ball joint on the shoulders and on the head. He can get in a seated position. He is pinned at the hips and the knees. No real need to show that stuff off. Of course, he transforms to become a head, and he becomes the head of Full-Tilt. And this is the sculpt, which I totally dig. I really like that. It's all purple except for the silver crest, but man, does it look slick. He goes in the body peg very tightly. Again, he's not the star of the show. He's probably a 2. By the way, fun fact, not only learned this recently, the voice of G1 Trypticon was done by Brad Garrett, and if you're not sure who that is, it is Robert Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond. And I never knew that he'd done the voice, but now that I know, I can hear it, and I could see how he would actually have been great casting for that. But as for this guy, he never appeared on the program, only in comics, technically speaking. Still, it's kind of cool that he goes in with the gimmick, and there's a way for him to interact with Trypticon in his, I guess basically in his dinosaur mode. And we'll get to that when we get to the big guy. And we're into section number 2, moving a little bit larger. This time we're going to take a look at Full-Tilt. Now, let me give, again, a little bit of kind of information here if you're not sure how it lines up with the, I guess, original minions of Trypticon. Full-Tilt was actually a drone, and I don't believe he had a conscience of his own. Wipeout, however, did, which means Necro does. So technically the vehicle is Full-Tilt, and when Necro goes on him, technically the robot would become Wipeout with his own sentience. But yeah, overall, you know, he was just a little purple car that didn't have a mind of his own, from what I understand. If I'm incorrect, somebody can point it out. We never really saw him in the cartoon other than being the chest of Trypticon, and that's really about it. So, can he transform? Yeah, of course, and he could transform in G1 as well. And actually, this is a nice rendition of that. In terms of being a chest for Trypticon, you know what? It's a 10. If we're going to talk about, let's back this up a bit. If we're going to talk about accuracy, technically he's a 10 because he's a he's a fine chest for Trypticon. He is basically a deluxe class figure. He's mostly purple. It would be nice if silver had been used on the on the wheels, maybe a bit more silver for the windows. We did get a couple of stickers that went here, I guess, to be Cybertronian windows. He does come with this blaster, and it's a nicely molded blaster. It's fine. What's really interesting is that this blaster actually isn't meant to accommodate a Titan Master. It's just a blaster. I like that. I like that. In terms of the Titan Master, well, if I can open it, there. We have Necro inside here. There's some fantastic molded detail in there, but we're going to take him out. We've already looked at him, and of course we know that he's going to become the head. So in terms of paint apps, though you might say purple is bland, it's highly accurate, and I'm going to give it a 10. It is what it is. It's supposed to be bland. So we're going to close that down. We're going to, by the way, he does roll not great in this mode. He rolls okay, but the bottom does kinda pick up on him a little bit. If you are interested and you're the sort of person who would say, hey, I don't want this guy to actually be a Titan Master. I don't want Necro to be a thing. Let's just have it be Full Tilt, or if you prefer the name Wipeout, let's just have it be that. You could, assuming you don't want to attach him to Trypticon, you could pick up this section and leave it up in vehicle mode, and it leaves the slot open on the back for this guy to attach to. I will do that now. And you could have it looking like this, which is also fine. Even if you wanted to bring this down a bit, I mean, you could angle it back a bit. It is a little bit of a stylized, difference to the vehicle mode, but nothing that really affects it. The shoulders won't be locked in any longer now, but it really doesn't matter. The friction will sort of just keep them there in place anyway. So let's get into transformation, because technically this is the way the guy comes out of package. So where do we begin? We begin by coming to the front, and we fold that little piece down. It tabs in quite securely, and we fold that little piece down. They come down underneath. Then we fold out to the side and fold out to the side the panels under the legs. And we take the legs and we fold it down, take the leg and fold it down. And close it up on the back to cover in the hollow sections, which I think is great. That's fantastic. We come to the arms and angle them down. It's just pulling the shoulders down. Right, we just pulled the shoulders down. They were up like this. We just pulled them down. And you pop out the fist and pop out the fist. They're kind of tight, so don't be surprised if you really need to spend a little bit of time trying to move that. And in the end, boom, here we go, Full Tilt in his robot mode. In terms of his size, he was touted as a deluxe class, and here he is next to Misfire, who I looked at in full in episode 292. So you can see how they look together, and yeah, he's a deluxe class for sure. Definitely. By the way, in vehicle mode, when we are in Trypticon's base mode, he can also be, I guess, stood up as a center spire. We'll see that. So technically, he also fulfills the role of Brunt, who is the kind of other little drone. Also not sentient, just like Full Tilt wasn't sentient. Neither was Brunt. And his, I guess, big thing was being a spire in city mode, and besides that, it was basically a little tank. So we don't get that, but I bet you that there'll be some third-party company that will give him to us at some point. because he is, you know, he is missing. So it would be nice to have that. Anyway, articulation for the guy, well, the head goes left and right. The arms go all the way around 360. They go way out to the side. We have a bicep swivel. We have 90 degrees at the elbow. Nothing at the wrist other than being able to transform back in. He does not have a waist. That's a little bit of a shame. It would have been nice if he would have had a waist, but you know, there's a lot still here because the legs go forward, the legs go back, out to the side. He can do splits for days, and he has a 90 degree at the knee and a thigh swivel. No ankle tilt, but again, it's not very often that you do get that with a deluxe sized figure. So, overall, I said the paint was a 10. His transformation is fun, easy, a little bit involved because of, you know, the way you flip the leg pieces around. I love that there's panels to fill in the spaces on the back. I'm giving his transformation a 10. Articulation, lack of a waist swivel is too bad, but I'm going to give that a solid 9. Overall, this guy is a good 9.5, maybe even a 9.75. It's a great figure. Maybe not, you know, one that would be a huge standout on his own, released in a wave, but for something that is really technically an add-on to some bigger figure, I think the guy really stands out. I like this guy a lot more than I enjoyed Scamper, a lot more than I enjoyed Cerebros, and I have no problem with Scamper and Cerebros. I like both of them, but I think in terms of the additional bots, this guy stands out as the absolute best of them. Okay, that being said, I guess it's time to get to the big main event, and that's going to be Trypticon himself. Okay, and it's on to the main event, but before we get into it, I did neglect something when I was talking about Full Tilt. I'm going to just rectify it now. Since last, I guess we spoke a bit here, and I spent time getting all of the stickers applied, including a couple of extras. I also did a couple of other paint apps, just to add to the G1 accuracy. The black pistol that comes with Full Tilt, I now have painted white. It's a little more accurate. Here's what I neglected to mention, and I'll just take it off and do it now. He can hold it in his hand, no problem whatsoever. So I just wanted to point that out before we get into this. I'm going to get him back into his vehicle mode and affixed to the chest. While I take a second to put this guy back, I just want to point out that this is, you know, outside of the stickers being applied, and you will notice that we have stickers, you know, all along here, and where else can you see them here? Maybe up along right here, down around here. There's a lot of detail to the guys, so outside of the fact that I have those applied, the fact of the matter is this is basically how the guy comes out of package. So where do we begin with this guy? Well, like I said, we're going to follow the instructions and put him into his spaceship mode, I guess, first. It's probably the easiest way for us to go, and probably the easiest way for you to go once you get him at a package. That being said, none of it is really too difficult. So, very first thing, his tail comes like this already up, and we just bring that piece down over. And this is the same piece that goes up if you want to store a deluxe class figure underneath. And you might wonder, well, how do you get this up once you have it down? You angle it out and then angle it back up. And you have the space in here for a deluxe class figure, at least a small deluxe, say Hot Rod, for example, maybe Chrome Dome. But you don't just pick it up, you got to angle it out and then lift it up. You bring it down and it just goes there like that. I guess you could angle this up if you're so inclined, and angle these up a little bit if you're so inclined. Now you'll notice I don't have the legs on him. Over here you pick out this green piece and you take the leg for that side, which would be this leg, and of course you know easy enough which leg it is because it has the orange piece out here, and of course it has the connector piece in here. And this piece right here slides up into this slot. It slides in very easily, it slides back out very easily, but because of the way the legs lock in, both down here in his dinosaur mode and up here for the other modes, honestly, it's not like it's going to accidentally come out or anything like that. It'll only come out if you have this straight out and you want to slide it out. I think it's a nice way to connect it, to be perfectly honest with you. So, we come here, we come from the bottom. Is it the bottom? I think it's the bottom. Yeah, we come from the bottom, we slide it up and in, and you bring this all the way up then to the side, assuming you have it all the way up. And you bring it in on the side. I pushed in with a little bit of force just because I wanted it in there now. It is locked in there. You see that the side is held up, the leg is now currently held up. And we do the same thing, of course, on the other side. We pick out the green tab, we take this piece here and we slot it up. And we slide this back. And they're both in there now pretty easily. Now, to go to the I guess, spaceship mode, and we'll straighten those up right there. To go to the spaceship mode, we need to bring these sides down. There's a green button right here. Pressing it will normally, see if I can even show this. There's a little green tab in here. Pressing it moves this little green tab. And there's also purple tabs that lock this whole side piece in. So the purple tabs disengage and that green tab moves. So we take this and we bring it down to the side. And we do the same on the other side. We press that button, disengage the side, and bring it down. Naturally now, he isn't quite looking right. No more, he isn't right yet. You bring this down by rights and this down by rights, if you are so inclined. You flip this piece down around and this piece down around. This is painted purple as opposed to purple plastic like is used for full tilt and the ramps and these toe pieces. I love the shade of the purple that they use. It's very rich and glossy and metallic looking. But of course this isn't quite right. So now that you have this down, you need to angle it out one click and then angle this down. And when you angle this down, you have, actually I guess I should do it on the other side as well. Out one click and bend the knee. And now it rests down more like it should. What we have, or what you'll find we have, is a little rectangular tab hole right here. And there's a little rectangular tab, or actually a fairly substantial rectangular tab, on the heel of Trypticon. I got one side in, and I have the other side in. These stay in, these stay down. Whew, okay. Flip out a wing piece over here and a wing piece over here. The instructions sometimes show the wing pieces kind of stay in this position, but the friction will not hold them there. I mean, if you have it up straight, it'll either fall in or fall out. I think they're supposed to be straight out anyway, so I'm kind of cool with that. And I need to come over here. The head comes up here, and these pieces here kind of cover where the eyes are. Now, that's him in his spaceship mode. It is bulky, it is heavy, it is impressive, it is wide, very wide. You have, in this mode, of course, the location where the Deluxe can store. You have a Titan Master Peg here and a Titan Master Peg here. You have a Titan Master Peg here and here. You even have extra kind of holes here, so if you're so inclined, you could, for example, put an extra, you know, blaster there. Here's one of Starscream's null rays. You can put that there. You know, you can take another one and I think stick it right there. No, that's only a screw hole, so it's not going to really work there. So you can put extra blasters and 5mm pegs that are on him, and they're kind of all over the place. You have Titan Master pegs here, out here on the wing, back here on the wing, back there on the arm. And I'm just feeling here quickly where else I can feel some. Right here and right here. I would say if you were to count, there's easily 20 or more Titan Master pegs in this mode. It is a large ship. It is probably shorter than both Fort Max and Metroplex, but it is definitely much wider. It has a lot of heft and girth to it. That being said, if you want to pick it up, you know, you certainly can, obviously. No problem there. I like it. I love the look of this thing. I'm going to try and give you the kind of the once around here. You can see just how wide it is right here. You can see all the detailing here in right here. There's around the back. I guess technically he does have, you know, visible head syndrome, but I think it's forgivable for everything that this guy does right. Okay, so from here, probably the easiest thing to do is to go into his base mode next. And I guess I'll turn that like this, and you know, there's a bit of a close-up on it. I'll try and give you another one here from the side actually before we go on. There's another close-up, and you can see what I'm talking about with the purple paint on that section that flips down compared to the purple plastic. Yeah, man, he's so massive. Okay, so taking that out and starting this off now to go to the other mode. I think that going to the city mode is the most, I won't say fiddly or finicky, that's not correct, but it's definitely the mode that is the most, I guess, prone to having moving parts that aren't particularly secured great. But that being said, when he's in city mode, how much moving are you going to do? In this mode, the articulation is great. You still have these things that can move. If you wanted, you could send full tilt off. This opens up. Even the little gun on the front moves. I showed you where you could add other things. If you wanted these out straight, you certainly could. On the back, the head can move, like bend down if you just want it straight down. You can still open the mouth, the head crest blaster, that is still operational, so there's still a lot you can do in this mode. The articulation is pretty great considering it's a ship. Okay, city mode, what do we do? Bring this up and bring this up. They should be out flat for city mode. Bring that down, and now this whole piece here flips out. And of course, you could have full tilt or any other deluxe come down and go on down the ramp, no problemo. Besides that, really the only things, I guess, we can put this up and put this up and straighten these up and straighten it up. And you can even take full tilt, and if full tilt isn't attached, you still have this purple armature here. That goes up to become the center spire. Earlier I said that technically full tilt sort of operates as brunt. This is what I meant. This is your center spire, and there is like a cannon nose here at the end for like that main cannon. Now, we got to bring the legs out. According to the instructions, they should pretty much come out straight across from where the wing is here, if you're wondering where to put them. That being said, you can kind of position the legs wherever it is that works best for you. But I'm going to sort of follow the instructions as closely as I can here. So we unpeg that from the side, we bring it up. And we do the same on the other side. We're going to unpeg it and we're going to bring it up. So over here we unpeg it. And we bring it up like that, basically. And you can kind of see where we're going here with this. You need to open out the legs, which I guess I'll do now. And there's no real pretty way to do it. You just come here and you split it open and bring that down. And here's your connector. And you flip down, oh, I guess I should put that up. And you flip down that panel. If you really wanted, you know, you could probably do something with these arms. I mean, they're just there. You can put them down the back, or you could untab them and, you know, straighten them up as spires, I guess, or bring this out. You could even bring it out like that. I like having it up just because I like having a bigger kind of cityscape. Plus, it opens up another kind of flat area back here. That being said, you're going to lose a Titan peg or two that's on the arm by doing this. So I am altering this ever so slightly. So we come over here. And of course this leg does not want to split. Here we go. Split it out. Bring that down. This up and out. And this arm up. And forward like that. If you're like me, of course you do not have to do that, obviously, and bring that out. In the end, this is basically your city mode for Trypticon. It is quite large. The whole guy is quite large. Let me give you a couple of statistics here. I mentioned that the guy is 11 pounds, and so he is. In this mode, he is extremely wide. He is more than 3 feet wide. He's closer to about 38, 39 inches, about 40 inches maybe, wide. He's very wide from very tip to very tip. Of course, it depends on how far out you have the legs sort of splayed, but he's, you know, he's quite large. Unless you really have a very big display area, it's not likely you're going to be able to showcase him like this. Of course, I'll use him in this mode periodically in Universal Collision. I do have a plan for this guy, so I'm so happy to have him. There's detailing all throughout. This way, this mode has about 30 to 35 Titan master pegs that I have been able to notice. We could still put the blasters up here. You could probably even put some on here, could you? Let's just see. In the middle one, at least. The two outer edge ones, I think, are more screw holes. This one, you could also put a blaster on his leg here. You could certainly put one on the side. You could certainly put a couple. The fact is that this guy is covered in not only Titan Master pegs, but 5mm ports for ever so many blasters or Titan Master vehicles that you get. There's so much interactivity here and interconnectivity with the Titan's Return line that it's really, really amazing. I'm going to try and kind of rotate this guy a little bit now just to give you a bit of a side view here of him, which is not the easiest thing to do. But here's basically a little bit more of a side view of the guy. So you have an idea of just how big he even opens out here. Obviously, it's basically the spaceship mode, you know, spread out more. But I think that that's fine. I think that that's cool. I feel like that this, you know, this is called Nemesis Command, and I feel like it, you know, really kind of harkens to a ship that I could honestly believe is supposed to be reminiscent of the Nemesis, especially as seen in things like War for Cybertron. So we're going to go into his last mode. By the way, no, I'll save it. We're going to go into his last mode, which is, of course, his Dinosaur mode, and the mode where people have pointed out ever so many issues. I'm going to talk about that. But before I go there, actually, I guess I will do it now. Some people have complained that the translucent chest panel just falls down on theirs. I have not had that issue at all. Mine is pretty secure, stays pretty tight. There is, however, a screw hole right here near the top. You do need to have the sides down in order to access it. A common fix going around is basically to take a precision screwdriver, tighten that screw just a little bit, and it's what holds the two halves of the body together. And doing so tends to solve that issue. So there's one fix kind of given to you if you didn't know what to do. We're going to put this arm back down, and we'll go over and do the same thing on the other side. Put that arm back down. You might have noticed that I extended these spires. We're going to retract them, and we're going to push that down, close over, and flip up. We're going to flip this piece up, and we're going to flip that piece up, this piece in, and same on the other side with this piece in. So there's a lot of stuff that falls together rather nicely. For now, I guess I'm actually going to put these up this way, out of the way. Now, I think you're supposed to be able to just take this panel and kind of slam it up on the side in order to lock it in position. However, I find that it's a good idea to actually depress this green button, the one that moves the little green piece, and these purple pieces here. I find that doing that helps to solidify the sides. So we're going to do that next. Push that in, bring it up, push that whole side in. Next, I'm going to fold the leg back down. This piece right here is kind of your linchpin. It goes in a slot here and in a slot here. So we're going to take that and bring it down. And we're going to take this and bring it down. We kind of adjust the feet here a little bit because there's a bunch of pegs and tabs and holes that kind of go into one another there. We're going to bring the toes down and bring these two purple pieces down. That's his foot. So if you're wondering how high the guy can kick up for articulation, pretty high actually. Now, you want to probably press that button again and bring this hip out and bring it down around the bottom and snap it in. You might, if you can do it, want to press the button to snap it back in. But we have one leg done, we're going to do the other side, the other leg now, which is going to be the exact same thing. So I'll get this in position for you. We press the button, bring it up. We fold down. We fold down. We tab together, foot out, these pieces out, this section down, and in on the side. And right now we sort of have Trypticon lying down like a little baby. And we're going to remedy this now. Okay, so now that you have that done, pick the guy up, the tail. If you can do it. Comes all the way back. Some people have said that the tail on theirs does not lock. I think the trick is to bring it back with a bit of force, because my tail stays locked just fine. Now I did have one time when I was transforming him, last night actually, when it did not lock, but I was moving it very slowly and gingerly from one position to the other, being extremely careful with him. And I don't think that that's what this needs. I think it actually needs a bit of force. Push it back. I'm not saying push back to the point that you break it, but I mean, don't be afraid to push on it. I have heard of people removing the numerous screws on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 5 or 6, maybe even 7 screws on this side. Taking the two halves apart, there is a centerpiece that goes through the upper portion right here. And apparently there are little toothed out, I don't know if you call them ratcheted pieces, but little toothed out parts that are not affixed. They're loose. I think that they're supposed to be loose. Some people have glued them in, they say now it locks in both positions. I think they're supposed to be loose because I think it's sandwiched between the plastic covering here and the plastic part of the tail that's really attached to the body. It's up to you. If you feel like yours isn't locking, you can take the tail apart into a couple of halves. You can glue on the loose ratchet-like pieces that are there, and you'll get it fixed. I don't need to do it. I don't have that issue. Next, bring the leg down, straighten out the knee if you're so inclined. I tend to have his leg straight. You certainly don't have to. And on this other side, you're going to do the same thing. Bring that down, and this. And there he is stood up. This brings us to the next issue, the hip ratchets. Granted, my left hip ratchet sounds a little harsh. It goes up quite easily, but it sounds like it's clicking really hard coming back down. My right one moves like butter in both directions. We'll see that when we run through articulation. I did take the left hip ratchet apart. I thought about showing you guys how to do that fix, even though it's really online several times and not a problem to find it. When I discovered that mine wasn't broken, despite the sound, I just put it back together and it's working fine. I don't have the issue there. What I am happy to report is that I don't have the chest issue, or the tail issue, or the hip issue at all, which means, yes, there are versions of this guy coming out that are free of the problems that people have been talking about, and I wish you the best of luck in yours being one of them. Anyway, now that we have this done, okay, so we had the legs done. I got the other arm already down, but basically you bring this down and there's a peg in here and a tab on the side. Bring that down, straighten it out his arm, and then you turn the whole head around. These, of course, can come over his shoulders, or if you want, they can go down on his back. And if you opt to do that, you're going to limit his articulation a little bit. Now, let's talk about size for this guy, ever so slightly. I guess the very first thing is that his depth, being from front to the back of his tail. And this is assuming now that you have him stood up as straight as I do, which a lot of people will not have done. But assuming you actually have him stood up as straight as I do, his depth is still 16 inches. That's pretty deep from the front of him back to the tail. His height is, by the way, 16 inches is about 40 centimeters for those using that measurement. His height, 20.5 inches in this mode, which is about 52 centimeters or so. With his towers, if you were to take the towers that I have down on the back and actually bring them straight up, if you just left them straight up, Now he's 23 inches, or about 58.5 centimeters. So he is tall. Is he a little bit shorter than Metroplex? Yes. Is he shorter than Fort Max? Yes, but neither of them have this enormous chunk back here. This plastic was used elsewhere, and I do feel like that this guy is heavier. I've actually had them in hand, and we will do comparisons a bit later, but I've actually had them in hand, and I feel like that this guy is significantly heavier. Maybe not, maybe it's a mind trick being played on me, but he just feels so hefty. Okay, so I like to bring these forward. Either way, he's a big boy. Now, transformation through all modes, I think, is pretty fantastic. I like it. Is it perfect? No, because we know that he has had some issues. Luckily, I don't have any of them, but I understand for people who have experienced it. The only pain that I really find with him is that I feel like you really need to move the side of his body and his leg from the lower to the upper position or in reverse, kind of all in one fluid motion, and you really, really need to remember the button down here. If you don't remember the button, you seriously risk breaking off one of those tabs, in which case he's just not going to be solid. I think the transformation, however, is inventive, it's interesting, and we get three very fun, sprawling modes, even the dinosaur mode for what it is. I'm going to give it an 8. It is a solid 8. Remember, this guy's in running for Toy of the Year. He's good, but is he Toy of the Year good? Well, we have an 8 for that. The paint apps, especially with the stickers added, they were a solid, I'd say 9.5. Maybe even 9.75. What did I do? I painted this white, because it is a little more accurate. I painted green on his kneecaps because in consultation with many, many images of his G1 model and kind of going back and watching a bit of the series to see him from that season 3 time, most of the time, not always, most of the time, his knees here are green, and I added an extra Decepticon symbol down on almost his ankle really, but really it's kind of the lower shin. Now I'd say it's 10. I really would. I don't see what they could do different outside of the 3 little things that I did, which are very, very minor. And that's just me being nitpicky. If you didn't want to touch him at all, I don't think you're going to mistake that this is a definitive Trypticon. Okay, so we have an 8, and officially we have a 9.5. That gives us about an 8.75, roughly. Articulation, let's see how that fares and if it's Toy of the Year quality. The head can go up and it can go down. The whole thing, by itself it can't move, but the whole thing can go left and right. If you have Necro up, there's a little section up here where you can put a Titan Master. Of course you can just press it with your finger, but you can plug in a Titan Master up here, Necro or any other one, and it pops this up. That being said, if you just want his nose cone gun up, you can just pick it up. I put the stickers on his eyes. They don't fit the best. They're a bit of a pain. Underneath them is translucent plastic. Some might even be prompted to paint them gray, since a lot of times the eyes went unpainted in the animation and it sort of looked like he didn't have any eyes. But beware if you're going to use the gold stickers there. It might be just as well to leave them as the orange translucent plastic. This piece here, actually I guess before we get to that, the head can go all the way around, but the whole neck joint needs to go with it, including the spires. The arms, they can go all the way around. They can go out to the side, pretty much 90, straight out to the side, both of them can. There is no bicep swivel. I understand why, but wow, what an oversight. There is no wrist swivel. though his claws can open and close. There is an elbow that's a little over 90 degrees, and the wrist can bend up and down, but not side to side. I think that really having to have the claw this way all the time is a bit of an oversight. If you wanted more than this, you could always untab this whole panel and bring that way up over his head. There's no real way to get his arm across his body unless you kind of open it out and go across like this, but then sort of up by his, well, I guess you could do it that way. So you sort of have it if you use a transformation joint and you don't mind this sticking off. It's a bit of a stretch. I would have liked to have seen an actual bicep swivel at the very least. But again, these are dinosaur arms, and most of the time his arms were just straight anyway, so I kind of get why they would pass on it. No waist, but that's really because of transformation. I can sort of forgive it. This whole chest piece, however, this can come up, and there's a cannon right here, so I sort of dig that he can have that cannon. Of course, if you open his mouth, which he can do, you have two cannons in here, and you have a throat open there. And we all have seen the gimmick where he takes a Titan Master and he can eat it, and then you open up the chest and you have in here a couple of sections where the Titan Masters fall down. I think the most I've seen it kind of get jammed down his gullet is 63. I want to say it was 63. I could be wrong, but I could swear that I read that or saw that somewhere. Then we get to the controversial part of this guy, which is the legs. Okay, so where do I begin with this? The legs can go very, actually I'm going to take that whole arm off. The legs can go very far forward, all the way. They can go back. In fact, they could go right around if not for this shoulder. So, no thigh swivel, though there is a little kind of hip hinge here that gets you a little bit of movement. Oh, that's the first time that ever fell down. Knee under, no, well, I guess knee, yeah, a little under 90 degrees. We have a toe tilt. And those, I guess, purple intersections, side feet, I don't know what you call them, side toes, they can also go up and down. Out to the side, well, stock only really goes out that far to the side. Same on the other side. And we have 1, 2, 3 tilts for an ankle ratchet. So he can actually get a rather wide stance. You know, if I put this one out and end like this. If you want Trypticon to stand that wide for some peculiar reason, you certainly can. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, what if I want my Trypticon to do like a high kick, like a karate kick or something? Well, I guess you would pick this up out of the way. And here's what my suggestion would be. Press that button, pull the leg out, and now you can fake it all the way up. I don't know why you would ever want to do this. I don't know why you'd ever want his leg up this high, but technically he can do it because of that hinge there. You know, again, it's using a transformation hinge for it, but technically he can do it. Now, that being said, he's going to serve my purposes just fine because as a dinosaur, I don't think that the guy should be able to do a whole lot of agile moves. It just doesn't really seem Trypticon-ish to me. We had an 8.75, but when we get to the articulation, even though I don't have any of the issues, we have no thigh swivel, we have no waist, we have no bicep swivel, we don't even have a wrist swivel. Though he is very interactive, still in this mode. Again, you have Titan Master pegs all over the guy, up on the spires and up on his head and up here. Still, you know, like right here you have a Titan Master peg. So you still have ones kicking around. But here's what I do find really cool. We can stick this in there. Let's give him Starscream's null ray here. And while we're at it, let's give him another one of Starscream's null rays over here. Top Spin's blasters and one of Twin Twist blasters. They can go in holes right there. Stick one in there and one up right there. Let's take here a Combiner Wars axe and we'll stick that in right there on the side of his leg. And another one right there. One more, just for good measure, over right here, in case you weren't keeping count. That is 14 more blasters or Titan Master vehicles or whatever stuck on this guy. He is so interactive. That's his win. In terms of the articulation, to get back to that for a second, it's only about a 6, maybe even a 5. It's not the best articulation in the world. But I think it's forgivable because, like I said, he shouldn't move a whole lot. And look at all of this that you can add to him. That's not to mention Titan Masters that can actually go on the guy. You can have like your own Titan Master battle on the dude. Overall score. Truth is, he was at 8.75. Because he only got about a 5, 5.5 for articulation. Overall, that would drop him to about a 6.5, maybe a 7. Because of the sheer girth and size of him. Honestly, I think that pops him up easily to a good 8.5, especially when you consider everything that can go onto him. He's a great figure. It's an excellent update to Trypticon if you can avoid the issues, or if you do get the issues, you can fix them. That's the big key with the guy. I consider myself really fortunate that mine don't have them. I hope yours don't either. Okay, so overall score for the guy, like I said, is about 8.5. He's good. Do I think he's figure of the year good? No, I don't. I still think that Trigger Happy should get that because that is absolutely perfect. Absolutely. Top Spin a close second. This guy right now is listed as third, but I think it's because of the hype surrounding him. That being said, am I going to complain about it? No, not in the least. This was a one-time in life purchase for me. I won't have another Trypticon. I have no need, no interest, because this is an excellent, excellent update. Should you get him? Can I recommend him? Yeah, I definitely can. In my experience, because I don't have the problems, I can recommend him hands down as one that will have such an impact on your display, will be, you know, really one of the cornerstones of your collection. And for me personally, even despite the imperfections, I already know how the guy's going to go use for my purposes in Universal Collision. I love him. Okay, so all that being said, now that we've got the reviews done from the smallest up to the biggest and everything in between, we've touched on the issues. Luckily, I didn't have to fix them. Sorry that I didn't show you really the fixes for it, but I didn't need to. We're going to do one other thing, which of course is going to be the comparisons, and in the same vein of the comparisons, we're going to take a look at what I see right now anyway as my ultimate Autobot base and my ultimate Decepticon base. Okay, so I promised that we would do comparisons, and you see I'm back very far because we're going to do a whole bunch of comparisons here now. We're going to start in the robot mode. Obviously, you can see that we still have Trypticon in all of his girthy glory stood up there, no problem. And maybe I'll just put his head down. First, the one that probably matters the most And there he is alongside the Generations Metroplex that came out a few years ago. I looked at Metroplex in full way back in episode 24. And I noted then that the guy wasn't perfect, but I was so enamored with him that I did end up giving him a score of 10, and I still think he deserves it. I have never, ever gotten tired of looking at this guy. He is absolutely glorious. This is gonna be challenging to do. Here he is with. We're gonna just move Metroplex there a little bit. Here he is as well with Fort Max, and I looked at Fort Max in full, really in a kind of a three-part series in episodes 116, 117, 118. By the way, when I looked at Metroplex, I made a guess then as to how Fort Max would transform, and I was fairly close actually. And of course I showed some kind of fan modes with Fort Max as well. Fort Max, he scored well, he got a 9.5. And the only other one right now that I think it would really be appropriate to compare with this guy in robot mode would be the other Titan that we have. That of course being Devastator. And I looked at Devastator in full combined. Actually I looked at each member of Devastator in a bit of a series, but I looked at the full combined mode in episode 21 and scored it an 8. He has the PCO 7 set now. I have scored him at about a 9.5 with that set. It's about as perfect of a Devastator as you could want with that set. Interestingly, you can see that the Decepticon Titans are smaller than the Autobot Titans. I guess in a way they're still getting a little bit of a raw deal. Certainly, Trypticon comes up to about the chest of Metroplex and Fort Max, but because they don't have the tail, they don't have that piece sticking back. Naturally, he would have more girth than Devastator, so I'm cool with that. I'm all right with that scale. I still think Devastator's too big. He really should have been about the size of the other combiners, but I can buy it with, 6 construction vehicles. And in looking at this, I feel like that the only one for girth that rivals Trypticon is probably Fort Max. He has a lot of girth in that middle section. But if you look at Trypticon next to his main foe, being, of course, Metroplex. Metroplex is a lot slimmer down through the body, so I think that's where you kind of get the trade-off. He has the height advantage, Trypticon has the weight advantage. And in terms of logical entries into the Titans line, I would venture to say to you that the next two logical ones would have been, or would be, Omega Supreme to rival Devastator, and Scorponok to rival Fortress Maximus. Maybe make Scorponok a little bit bigger, possibly, than Trypticon. Thin up the tail, maybe. But still, I think that this works pretty good overall. Okay, that's robot mode. We're going to kind of change venue, and I'm going to take Devastator out of it, and we're going to look at the other three in their vehicle modes. And this is the comparison in vehicle mode. Now they're lined up pretty much like toe to toe to toe. The long story short is that in this mode, it's a bit of a toss-up between Fortress Maximus and Metroplex for length. But definitely width and girth goes to Trypticon. I'm going to try and get a couple of other angles here for you guys to see. Here's kind of the side view, if you will. So you can sort of see The Trypticon is shorter, but definitely girthier. This is more of a top-down view, and you might notice that my Metroplex actually has two blasters on him. The one that's on his flight deck, it's weird, there are two starts to come down on the blaster, and there's a little rectangular piece that sticks up there. You kind of wedge it over that. It's not really its own dedicated like 5mm peg or some such, but you can get an idea here of the size of these three, and they're absolutely enormous on my floor. I really don't know which one is my favorite, but I think that they're all absolutely stellar. Okay, and here is one incarnation of the base modes, and you can see that it's very difficult to fit all of these guys on screen. I'm going to try and show it again from a couple of different angles. The most unimpressive of these is the official base mode, obviously, for Fort Max. The largest splayed out with the most kind of usable surface area is easily Trypticon. But the most kind of city looking, the most interesting, is probably Metroplex. Still, all three of them in their own way are quite imposing. Like I said, I'm going to try and get this from a couple of different angles for you. Okay, so after toying around with a couple of different options, I think that this is probably the best one to kind of give you the best overview. Fort Max, definitely the most simple if you leave him in his official mode. Metroplex has to be the most visually striking with so many spires and buildings sticking up. But if you look here, definitely the most surface area is gonna be on Metroplex, or sorry, for Trypticon, because he has you know, the most flat area and the most Titan pegs. He has even more than Fort Max, and Fort Max had a lot. Okay, so now that we've seen comparisons of all of these guys in all of these modes, I'm going to put together a configuration of the Autobots and a configuration of the Decepticons for what currently stands as my ultimate base mode. And let's just see how full and rotund and robust these guys can actually get. Okay, and here we are back again with my ultimate Autobot base. And of course, I already mentioned Metroplex that I looked at in episode 24, and Fort Max that I looked at in a three-part series in episodes 116, 117, 118, and how I scored them. You'll notice that there's several more figures here. You might see Sentinel Prime making an appearance. I looked at him in episode 153 in full and scored him well. I like him, even though he kind of got a bad rap. I gave him an 8.5. Near Metroplex, there's Alpha Trion, who I looked at in episode 190. He might not be the best representation of Alpha Trion, but I still enjoy the figure, and I'm glad to have some representation of him. Next to Alpha Trion, there's Broadside, who I looked at in episode 247. Granted, he might be a little bit small, but it really is a pretty fantastic figure. And I scored him very well. I gave him a 9.25. Who else do we have here? Quick Switch is there. I looked at him when I looked at the entire Chaos on Velocitron set in episode 275. Scored him very well. I also like the 6-shot mold. Power Master Optimus Prime is connected to Fort Max. I wasn't going to get him, but I used him as my version of Super Ginrai, and I scored him better than I thought I was going to score him. Ultra Magnus is in here. I don't think you can really see Magnus very well at the moment because he's sort of hidden by Fort Max. Let's see if I can move over a bit here to show you him. You can get a peek of him down bottom there. I looked at Ultra Magnus in episode 77 a long time ago. Really, really love that figure. Big fan. And we have, last but not least, Blaster here. And I looked at Blaster in full in episode 222. He doesn't belong to me, belongs to the Scraplets, so I appreciate being able to use him here. I'm always nervous about his knees, but I understand that he had a huge following. So that's the Autobot portion. And it looks very full. And so it is. There's a lot of spires, there's a lot of towers, and it really does look like a base, look like a city. And obviously that's what they're going for. So next we'll look at the Decepticon one, and then we'll look at both of them together to kind of round this whole thing out. And now you see the ultimate Decepticon base that I currently have. I did not get Soundwave, so he is not attached here. So who did I use? Well, I had Astro Train, who I looked at back in episode 191. I really dig Astro Train. Again, some people kind of didn't. I think he got a bit of a raw deal. And that's a base mode that I came up with for him. Six Shot is attached here. Love Six Shot. Looked at him in episode 218 and everything to do with him. Scored him about a 9. And over on the far side we have Sky Shadow, or Black Shadow if you will. I looked at in episode 256. Starscream Girlfriend got him for me. I was gonna pass him over. So glad that she got him. He's like a 9.5. He's fantastic. I do plan to get Overlord. I have not seen him yet. I have not been able to attach him to this base, so it is going to get a little bit larger than what we're seeing here at the moment. But still, especially considering this is only one Titan, it's impressive. Now we're going to look at both of them together. I'm going to give you a few specs, a few measurements, and just see how well Trypticon by himself can measure up. And here we have the enormous overview of both of these bases. Now this is my my family room, my living room floor. You can see just how much space they're taking up with the furniture, or, kind of on the outer fringes, but the fact of the matter is, they're both pretty enormous. Now, that being said, the Metroplex Fort Max Autobot base is basically, it's 42 lengthwise going left to right, and it's 32 widthwise going, top to bottom. It's big. It's 42 inches lengthwise by 32 widthwise. Then we have the Decepticon base. We only have one Titan here, remember, and we don't have nearly as many small bases. And still, going top to bottom, he's 40. And going left to right, he's 29. So going left to right, we have 32 for the Autobots, 29 for the Decepticons. Going top to bottom, we have 42 for the Autobots and 40 for the Decepticons. And we have 2 Titans and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 extra Autobot bases. For the Decepticons, we have 1 Titan and 1, 2, 3 more bases. Right there, that can tell you how the size truly compares. It's impressive. Both of these bases, really impressive. I'd love to know and hear and see what your incarnations of the Autobot and Decepticon bases are. But that's it. We finally looked at everything to do with Trypticon. No, the guy is not perfect. He does have a couple of limitations, and if you're unfortunate enough to have some of the issues that have been thrown around and discussed, such as his hips, or the tail not locking in, or there was one more, the chest panel falling out, that is a crying shame. Hopefully that gets remedied in subsequent releases. All of those issues, however, do have fixes, even though we shouldn't have to do that. Still, can I recommend him? Yeah, overall, he is a solid 8.5. Not perfect, but really good. Is he Toy of the Year good? I still think that goes to Trigger Happy, arguably. Anyway, let me know what you think. And if you have any questions, hey, ask away. I love to hear from you guys. And as always, I very much thank you for giving me some of your valuable time, especially with everything that was covered here. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together for another visit right here inside the videos.